30-year-old Deborah Lee Atrops lived in Salem, Oregon in 1988. She had an 8-month-old daughter with her husband, 34-year-old Robert Atrops. Robert was living in the couple's home in Sherwood, and Deborah lived in an apartment in Salem because by November of 1988, Deborah and Robert had been separated for 5 months. On November 29th of the same year, Robert went to pick up their daughter from a babysitter in Newberg, Oregon, while Deborah was at a hair appointment in Tigard. Deborah was expected to be home before 8 p.m., but she never showed up. Robert then called several friends and family members to see if they knew where Deborah was before reporting her missing to the Tigard Police Department. The next day, Robert told investigators he had still not heard from his wife. Deborah's car was then entered into the databases used by law enforcement as a vehicle connection to a missing person. Deborah's black Honda Accord was recovered by police officers in Beaverton, Oregon on December 1st of 1988. A city public works employee reported a suspicious abandoned car with keys in the driver's seat located at the end of Southwest Murray Road. Witnesses said the car had been parked there since early on November 30th. The two-door sedan also had its driver's side window down and was missing the license plates. In the trunk of the car, investigators discovered Deborah's body. She had been strangled. Based on the positioning of her body, it was determined that she had been placed there after her life was taken. Despite more than 3 decades of investigation, the case unfortunately went cold. Detectives with the Washington County District Attorney's Office Cold Case Unit reopened the case in 2021, about a year after forming a partnership with the Washington County Sheriff's Office. The Cold Case Unit was formed in 2020 after receiving a grant from the U.S. Department of Justice. For the next year and a half, investigators re-interviewed multiple witnesses and had forensic evidence re-examined. All of this led to Robert Atrops being charged with taking Deborah's life on February 28th of 2023, where he was indicted by a grand jury. He was booked into the Washington County Jail. Washington County District Attorney Kevin Barton had this to say: "I am proud of the work our cold case unit has done to ensure that victims and cases are not forgotten despite the passage of time. Being able to use today's technology and apply it towards evidence that was seized over 30 years ago is a huge advantage in terms of challenges. We may think of these cases as old, or we may use the word cold, but if you talk to the family and friends of the victims of these cases, they're very current issues for them," Barton said. "They're still dealing with the trauma as a result of that crime." Barton also said that he can't give all the details that led to the arrest at this time, as it's still an ongoing investigation. On May 11th of 2007, 64-year-old Dennis Lee First's body was found at his apartment in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. He had been stabbed and beaten. According to Tammy Mims, assistant manager for the Hawthorne Hills apartments where Dennis lived, said he had prostate cancer, didn't have many visitors, and lived on Social Security. Tammy said that when a friend called and asked her to check on Dennis, she notified Robert Gross, a maintenance employee at the apartments. Robert knocked several times on Dennis's door, and when no one answered, he entered the residence. Inside, he found Dennis lying face up on the bed, feet on the floor. Robert then saw all the blood and called 911. Evidence collected at the scene was sent to the Iowa Division of Criminal Investigations State Crime Lab in Ankeny for testing. Dennis's first wife, Christine Burmeister, said that he had a rough life. "It's hard to believe somebody would stab him. He could hardly get around." Denise and Christine had 2 children. Their son Brad was born in 1963 and their daughter Laura in 1965. In the 1970s, the couple lived in Oatland in Jones County, where Dennis worked as a purchasing agent at a Monticello steel company. He'd been living in Cedar Rapids since the couple's 1981 divorce. In 1990, Dennis had been arrested on charges of stealing from local businesses and for drunken driving. He'd also been accused of threatening a man from whom he rented a room. Things didn't get any better for Dennis after his son lost his life in 1993 in an auto accident. Dennis eventually lost touch with his daughter, ex-wife, and other relatives, but had begun calling them again a few years prior to his demise. In late May of 2007, Cedar Rapids police served 5 search warrants in the case, searching not only Dennis's apartment, but that of Curtis Paget. Investigators took his fingerprints and a DNA sample with a swab from inside his cheek. They also took a pair of his boots from his apartment. Paget was the last known person to have seen 15-year-old Aaron K. Pospisil, who went missing from Cedar Rapids on June 3rd of 2001. Paget, a friend of Aaron's older brother, told police that in 2001 he was leaving the Pospisil home at the same time as Aaron and agreed to give her a ride to her friend Britt's home. According to Paget, when they arrived at Britt's house, no one answered the door, and Paget claimed that as Aaron walked back to his truck, a black Chevrolet Cavalier with tinted rear windows pulled up to the curb. He said Aaron went up to the car and had a short conversation with someone, and then told him, "These guys will give me a ride," before getting into the Cavalier's back seat. Police could find no other witnesses to substantiate Paget's story about a black Cavalier in the neighborhood, and Aaron has not been seen since leaving her home with Paget. Finally, on March 1st of 2023, 42-year-old Curtis Randall Paget was arrested and charged with taking Dennis First's life. Lynn County Attorney Nick Maybanks said this case was a testament to the Cedar Rapids Police Department's commitment to victims and the community. This case shows that the department persists in seeking justice for victims and survivors, even in cases that may be hidden from the public eye. After the department's cold case unit approached Maybanks to review the case, and after several months of follow-up and a recent final consultation, Maybanks determined that Paget was responsible for taking Dennis's life. Police didn't say what exactly led to Paget's arrest, whether it was further DNA testing or something else. It was, however, later mentioned in the news conference that a partial blood boot print was found at Dennis's home that matches boots found at Paget's home. An oven mitt soiled with blood was also found. It contained both Dennis's and Paget's DNA on the inside of the oven mitt. Paget's fingerprint was also found on a knife sharpener in Dennis's apartment in a drawer. There's been no updates on Aaron's case, just a reliable sighting in the spring of 2002. Aaron was spotted at a convenience store in Cedar Rapids. She was riding in the back seat of a car with Illinois license plates. This tip was provided to Cedar Rapids police, however, the car was not found. They have never been able to verify the sighting. The person who saw Aaron knows her well and is still convinced that it was her. Aaron is described as a Caucasian female, dark brown hair, dark brown eyes. Aaron has a small scar above her eye and had red highlights in her hair at the time of her disappearance. If you have any information, please call the Cedar Rapids Police Department at this number. In December of 1992, the body of 31-year-old Lori Ann Perera was found in the desert area of Las Vegas, Nevada. A Las Vegas resident who was out walking his dog just east of the Montgomery Ward's retail store, located at 2875 East Charleston Boulevard, made the discovery. Lori had apparent ligature marks on both ankles and both wrists, and it appeared tape had been placed over her mouth. The Clark County Medical Examiner ruled the cause as asphyxia due to manual strangulation with blunt force trauma to the head after a complete autopsy of her body. 13 months later, in January of 1994, the body of 35-year-old Pearl Wilson Ingram was found in the dumpster behind the Vons grocery store located at 4440 East Charleston Boulevard in Las Vegas, Nevada by an employee of Silver State Disposal while on his normal trash collection route. Trash had been placed over Pearl's body in an effort to conceal her. After an autopsy was conducted, the Clark County Medical Examiner ruled that Pearl had been strangled. During the autopsy, it was noted several of Pearl's teeth were missing and she had abrasions on the bridge of her nose and above her eye. For the next 3 decades, the cases of Lori and Pearl were reviewed by numerous Las Vegas Metro Police Department detectives in hopes of developing new evidence. In March of 2007, when detectives took a new look at Lori's case, they found male DNA on a swab that was taken from her body during the autopsy. They requested that further forensic DNA work be conducted. A DNA profile of the culprit was created and entered into CODIS, but no matches could be made. In July of 2012, detectives took a new look at Pearl's case. During this time, male DNA was found on a swab taken from her body as well. The DNA evidence was again entered into CODIS, and on that same date, Las Vegas Metro Police Department officers were notified of a CODIS hit linking DNA from an unknown contributor to both Lori and Pearl. This confirmed the same person committed both crimes. This was a huge breakthrough, connecting these two cases that otherwise would have not been connected. In June of 2022, investigators requested a genealogical investigation to be performed by Othram Inc. Based on research from Othram's in-house genetic genealogy team, a preliminary suspect was identified as Eddie George Snowden Jr. He was born in January of 1937. Checks conducted on Snowden revealed he had listed his address in the 2800 block of East Charleston, Las Vegas. Lori Ann Perera's body was recovered at the 2700 block of East Charleston Boulevard in December of 1992 and 1.9 miles away from where Pearl Ingram's body was recovered in January of 1994. Additionally, Snowden's criminal history revealed he was living in the Las Vegas area at the time of both crimes. It also appears from Snowden's criminal history that he lived from 1956 to 1979 in the Fresno, California area, as well as several surrounding cities to include Sacramento, Santa Cruz, Madera, Merced, Woodland, and Watsonville areas. Las Vegas Metro Police Department cold case investigators were able to obtain familial reference DNA from one of Snowden's biological family members to confirm he was indeed the person who assaulted, beat, and strangled both Lori Ann Perera and Pearl Wilson Ingram. Unfortunately, no arrests will be made in these two cases due to the fact Eddie George Snowden passed away in Las Vegas, Nevada in February of 2017. At the age of 80. The Las Vegas Police Department released a statement where they said that they wished to thank the Fresno, California Police Department, Othram, and the Vegas Justice League for their continued support in their endeavor to find justice to all victims as well as some form of resolution to their families, friends, and our community. As Snowden was born in 1937, he would have been 52 years old when he took Lori's life. It is unlikely that he started committing crimes in his 50s, so investigators are working to see if he is responsible for any others. A news conference was held on February 6th of 2023 to announce the identification of Snowden. Pearl's younger sister, Teresa Board, said that the word of her sister's assailant being identified by authorities brought much-needed closure to her family.